So Grandeur Versus Grandiosity in A Course in Miracles. We're going to be in the original edition, which is the book that has the black cover with the white string of pearls. And if you have the edited version, the version with the blue cover, then it's chapter 8. What number section is it, Greg?
Breck. It's what's 9-8.
9.
Page 177.
Okay, great. Awesome. So this is such a beautiful and powerful section. I'll just jump into it and we'll let it reveal itself. All right. So it says in Grandeur Versus Grandiosity, it says, grandeur is of God and only of God. Grandeur. Therefore, grandeur is in you. Since grandeur is of God, it must be in you. Did you know that grandeur is in you? Oh, who knew? Grandeur is in me. Okay, I'm going to have to take your word for it. There's grandeur in me? That'd be nice. I'd like to see that. It says, whenever you become aware of the grandeur that is in you, even however dimly, guess what happens? You will abandon your fear. You will abandon your fearful human mind immediately. When your grandeur, when you become aware of it even dimly, you will abandon your fear, your guilt, your littleness immediately. Automatically. Why? Because in the presence of the grandeur of love in you, the meaninglessness of your fearful mind becomes perfectly apparent. Wow. Oh, exactly. That's what I said. All right. So what's it saying? First, it's saying that there is a grandeur in me. Like what? First of all, what is grandeur? By the way, so what is this grandeur that's in me? Well, it goes on to say, among other things, that your grandeur is a sense of abundance. It's your abundance. It's something within you that is so beautiful and so holy and so powerful, and it's abundant. It's ever abundant. There is no lack in it. There is no lack in the grandeur that's in you. And it is the opposite of the littleness that we feel within ourselves. It's the opposite of any feelings of inadequacy. So what would be the opposite of feelings of inadequacy and lack in me? I'm small. I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I'm inadequate. I'm incomplete. Your grandeur is the opposite of that, where you're like, woo, wow, it's all in me. I am everything. I have everything. I have everything. Love has given me everything. That's what it means. That's the grandeur that's in you. It's an experience of, I'm complete. Wow, there is no lack in me. I am everything. I have everything. The universe has given me everything. Everything I have, I need. Everything that I want, I have. I have it all. God has given me everything. That's the grandeur that's in us, okay? Now, we don't know about that, right? The reason we don't know about that and have contact with that truth in us is because of the fearful human mind in us. And it says that if we became aware of that kind of grandeur in us even dimly, we would abandon our ego automatically. Even a glimpse of that, and we'd be like, who needs you fear? Who needs you guilt? Who needs you feelings of inadequacy or lack of worth? You would abandon your self-doubt automatically. Can you imagine having a moment where you saw your perfection and your beauty and your power and your worth so clearly that you abandoned all self-doubt and all fear automatically. Can you imagine what that would be like? It says, well, that's what happens when you even become dimly aware of the grandeur that's in you. Okay, so I guess there's some moments where the grandeur that's in us is going to be dawning upon us. I guess those moments are on their way. Nice to know. Then it says, you abandon your ego automatically because the meaninglessness of your fear would become perfectly obvious. Now, though your ego doesn't understand what happened, when you had a moment where you're like, whoa, there's something in me that's complete, that is immortal, no lack, perfectly worthy forever. The moment that happens, even though your ego does not understand it, your ego, your human mind, believes that its so-called enemy has struck. And then what does the ego do? What does your human mind then do? It attempts to offer you gifts to induce you to return to its so-called protection. Okay, so what's happening here? So we're learning here about a very, very important and basic psychological dynamic that occurs within us. So the moment that you who's not your ego, you who are a divine spark of love and God, when you have a moment where you're like, I'm not a body. I'm not a body. There is no lack in me. I am love. And I am eternal. And I cannot die. You have a moment like that, and even though your human mind doesn't know what's going on, your human mind is like, oh my God, enemy has struck. The enemy has struck. The enemy is at the gate, says your human mind. And then your human mind, your fearful mind, the ego, goes, oh crap. Oh crap. Now I gotta do something. And so feeling threatened, even though the ego does not know what just happened, the human mind, your fearful mind, your fear goes, I have got to win her back. I gotta get this girl back. She just had a glimpse of something beyond me. Uh-oh, I gotta get her back. So what does the fearful mind in us do? It begins to induce us. Induce. Sounds interestingly similar to seduce, which is very interesting. Induce us to return to what? Its so-called protection. Okay? So the ego, the fearful human mind, is like a cruel, mean-spirited jailer, abuser, who has been what? Who has been
struck by the enemy.
Yeah, who has been abusing you, misusing you, limiting you, holding you in a jail cell, being mean to you, talking down to you, demeaning you, telling you, you know, ain't got no grandeur in you. You know you suck. But it's little. It's this little mean-spirited bully. Anybody ever encountered a mean, small-minded little bully? They're so little, but they're so mean. You know, like a little dog. They're so little, but they're so mean. And then, so this is the ego. That's the fearful human mind. The Course calls it a mouse roaring at the universe. It's like, burr, 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 burr. Now, this little bully, once you see that, oh, you're a small little bully, I'm bigger than you, and then you get a glimpse that you're free and that you no longer have to take it. You no longer have to take it. That in that moment, that little bully feels like the enemy has struck. It's like, oh crap, she just realized that she doesn't need me. She just realized that I'm mean. And then it's like, oh, but you need me, says the fearful mind. Oh, but you need me. Here, I'll take care of you. I'll help you to be safe. I'll give you a plan to be safe. Just attack, hold grievances, be afraid, and feel guilty. These are the gifts that the fearful human mind uses to seduce and induce you to return to its pitiful illusion of protection. This is what's happening psychologically within us. When what? When we have one of those holy instances where we realize, whoa, I am not what I thought I was. I'm more than I thought I was. I may even be free. I may even be powerful beyond what I ever dreamed of. I may be so worthy of love that I never even conceived of how worthy of love I really am. I may be so powerful that I never even dreamed how loving and lovable and powerful that I really am. In that moment, the fearful human mind part of us that's been our jailer, that's been that bully that we've been afraid of for so long, goes into action in our mind. We need to know this, okay? Then it says, now, the ego is then going to try to seduce you and induce you to return to its what? To its illusion of protection. And what are the gifts it offers you to return back to its protection? It's this, self-inflation. So the ego says, oh no, listen, come back to me. I will give you a way to inflate yourself so that you can feel better than others. Don't mess around with that grandeur where you're experiencing the power of your oneness with all life. Come back to me. I will give you a way for you to feel better than others. Self-inflation, that's all it can offer. Okay, now, and then it says this. That's its alternative, and that's its alternative to God. Now, which one will you choose? You can either have the experience of the grandeur, the power, the love, the worth, the value that creation gives to everything, or you can have a sense of, at least I'm better than them. At least I'm better than them. At least I have more than them. Which will you choose? The only thing that the ego can offer us is a feeling of triumph that comes out of competitiveness. At least I have more than them. At least I'm better off than them. At least I'm smarter than them. At least I have more than them. At least I'm not them. That's the only thing that the ego can offer us, and that's what our ego offers us as an alternative to the real power and glory that lives in us. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you why this is incredibly important. This is incredibly important and practical because as you stay on a spiritual path, you are going to have more and more glimpses of the power and the value and the real worth that lives inside of you. You're going to be having more and more holy instances where you're like, whoa, I'm not a body, I'm a spirit. My mind is creating my reality. I am powerful. I have everything. I've been given everything. You're going to be having more and more instances where you have an awareness of your power and your worth and your value for real. Now, what you need to know is that every time you have one of those moments when you realize you're more powerful than you knew, and you're more valuable than you knew, and you're more lovable than you knew, and you're more loving than you knew, every time you have one of those awarenesses, guess who's gonna be there, ready to get you back?
The ego.
Thank you. And you need to know that, so when the ego strikes back because it feels offended, you can go, oh, right, this is a trick. Aha, I had a beautiful day. I had a beautiful encounter. I had a beautiful holy encounter over here. I had this beautiful whole 5 minutes where I felt complete, where I felt healed, where I felt only love. And then right after that, right after that, I experienced attack somehow. Whether it was from within myself or seemed like it was from the world, some sort of attack, some sort of really seemingly negative event occurred. Now, so if you know what's going on, then you could go, of course, right after I had that beautiful moment where I was like, maybe I am more lovable than I thought. Maybe I am more powerful than I thought. Maybe I really am not missing anything. Maybe I am complete right now. And then boom, something happened where I was tempted to go, oh gosh, maybe I was insane. Was that the dream? Is that the dream? Me feeling powerful and loving and lovable? Is that the dream? Or is that the dream? Is that real or is that real? So we need to know about what's going on so that when the ego attacks back, because it feels offended, we can go, oh, that's a trick. That's a trick. Of course, my ego's attacking. It feels scared. It feels offended. Of course, right after that beautiful encounter, that beautiful experience, then, something like that happens. Something seemingly negative happens. Okay. The seemingly negative event that tempts you to go, maybe I am inadequate. Maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe I'm not as lovable as I thought. Maybe I don't deserve love like I thought I did or in that moment. You see, you can always tell when the ego has struck in its fear, because right after that you'll begin to doubt the miracle. You'll begin to doubt the love. You'll begin to doubt the holy instant that you experienced. Now,
would that be the same as like a moment of clarity?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. A moment of clarity. Absolutely. Clarity where you realize, wow, I am innocent. I am holy. I am lovable. I am love. Wow. One of those moments, that's a moment where the grandeur that's in you dawns upon you, or you perceive it even very dimly. And your fearful human mind that's been in charge for a long time, that wants you to feel afraid, that wants you to feel guilty, that wants you to feel small, wants you to feel ashamed, because that's its power over you, goes, ah, crap. It feels like its enemy has struck. And it says, grandiosity is always a cover for despair. What's grandiosity? Grandiosity is littleness. Now, grandiosity is always a cover for despair because without hope, because the ego and grandiosity is without hope because it is not real. So we've got grandeur that's within you, and then what is the ego? Grandiosity. So the ego's this. I'm better than. At least I'm not them. That's the littleness. What does he say? Oh, that's the self-inflation. So you have a glimpse of the power and the love and the glory that abides in you, and your ego feels threatened, so it offers you gifts of what? Self-inflation, to seduce you back into its so-called protection. The only gift the ego can offer you to come back to the littleness, which it is self-inflation. What is another word for self-inflation? Grandiosity. What's grandiosity? Where you're inflating yourself. You're inflating yourself. I'm better than, at least I'm not them. Self-inflation. Do you see? There's grandeur and there's grandiosity. Now, grandiosity, which is self-inflation, is always a cover for despair. Have you ever experienced somebody when you could see that they were inflating themselves? Like, I can we'll see an inflator. I gotta inflate myself. Self-inflation is the only thing that the fearful human mind goes for. That's its answer to a moment where you're like, wow, I have everything. Now, I'm complete. I am love. Now it says, but grandiosity, which is self-inflation. Self-inflation is always a cover for despair. When you are inflating yourself, that self-inflation is without hope because the self-inflation isn't real. Now, what is self-inflation? What is grandiosity? It's an attempt to counteract your littleness based on the belief that the littleness is real. So what is our ego, our fearful human mind always doing? Our fearful human mind is the part of us that's always going, you suck, you're little, you're inadequate, you are little, you have little, you'll always be little, you'll always be enough, you're inadequate, there's something wrong with you, you're missing some part, you're missing some essential part. That's the ego in our mind. It's the part of us that wants us to believe and has been teaching us at our request for a long time, you're small, you're inadequate, you're little, you're not enough, you'll never be enough, you know you're not worthy. And the only thing that you can hope for is to inflate yourself and somehow make yourself seem bigger or better than others. That's the ego. Anybody in here got one of those? The ego is a voice. It's a voice that if you're listening, you'll hear it. You're little, you're inadequate, you don't have enough. You'll always be that way. And the best you can hope for is to make it appear like you're bigger than you are. So if you get enough money, that'll help you inflate yourself. That'll make you appear to be bigger than you are, because you know you're small. So the ego is always offering self-inflation. Why? To cover up the littleness that it tells you is you. That's what it's always doing. That's what that voice is always going for. You know you're little, you know you suck. You know you don't deserve love. You know you're defective. You know there's something wrong with you and you're inadequate. So inflate yourself to appear to have more and to be more than you know you really are. That's what grandiosity is. And that's all the ego can offer. All right, does anybody recognize that? Mm-hmm. Now.
Well, that's the illusion of the world, to have more, be more, and do more.
Yes, that's exactly right. You've got to do more. You need to be more because you need to inflate yourself. Now, the ego, he says that grandiosity, that self-inflation is always an attempt to counteract your littleness based on the belief that that littleness is real. The ego never goes, well, are you little? Are you little? Are you inadequate? Ego never asks that as a question. The ego is just certain you're little, and that's real. And the best you can hope for is to make yourself appear to be bigger or adequate in some way. Okay? Now, we need to know about this voice. We need to know what it says. We need to know what its one objective is. And we need to know when it has felt threatened and what it does when it feels threatened. So that when it attacks, we can know what's going on and not be fooled. We can go, trick, it's a trick, it's a trick. Now, then it says this. Without your ego's belief in that your littleness is real, then its grandiosity is meaningless. So if I didn't believe I was little at my core, inadequate in my core, then I would have no need for self-inflation at all. I would have no need for grandiosity. I would have no need to make myself appear to be anything. Okay? Then it says this. Without this belief, grandiosity is meaningless, and without the belief that your littleness is real, you could not possibly want your ego. Wow. If I didn't have a belief that I'm little, I would never want the ego. I'd never listen to it. The ego would say, you suck. You're little. You're inadequate. You're incomplete. Something's missing. And I'd go, thank you for sharing. What do you know? I would never listen to my ego without my belief that I'm little, small. Good to know. Then it says, the essence of grandiosity or self-inflation is competitiveness. Why? Because the ego and grandiosity always involves attack. Now, what is the essence of the ego? What is the essence of grandiosity and self-inflation? Competitiveness. Okay? And this competitiveness, this grandiosity, this self-inflation always involves attack. Why? Because competitiveness, what is the ego? Competitiveness, based on the belief that the lack in you is real, the smallness in you is real. Competitiveness is a delusional attempt to outdo, but not to undo. I love that idea. What is competitiveness? It's the delusional attempt to outdo, but not to undo. So the ego's like, I'm going to outdo. I'm going to outdo the competition. I'm going to outdo the smallness in me. So competitiveness is an attempt, a delusional attempt to outdo, but not to undo. And that's what the ego is. The ego is always competitive. The fearful human mind, always competing, always trying to outdo, always trying to self-inflate, always trying to outdo instead of to undo fear. That's how you know, this is how you know when you're listening to the ego voice. I'm being competitive. I'm trying to outdo instead of to undo the belief that I'm little. Okay, that's what the ego is. Now remember, what's the opposite of I'm little, my littleness is real? What's the opposite of that? The grandeur that exists within me. The grandeur, the awareness that I ain't little. I'm the opposite of what's little. I am everything and everywhere, connected to everyone and everything, including the source of all life forever. Now, is that little? That's the opposite of little. So I have a voice in me that says, you are nothing. You are nobody. You are nothing. You always have been, and you always will be. Got that voice? Check. Then there's also this other reality in me, which is the only reality, which is that my grandeur, which is I'm everything and everywhere, I have it all now, and I am only love. That's the two. You got that reality, and then you got the voice of the ego in there. Now, it says this is very important. We said before that your fearful human mind, the ego, vacillates between suspiciousness and viciousness. That's its range. Got that voice? The ego voice? It has one range of emotion. the ego has a range of emotion. The range of emotion of the ego is this. It goes from suspicious to vicious. That's its range. That's its entire range. It never goes outside of that range. The fearful human mind, at best, is suspicious. At worst, it's vicious. That's its whole range. Then it says, and your fearful human mind, your ego, it will remain suspicious as long as you do what? Despair of yourself. As long as you despair in yourself, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, I'm inadequate, there's something wrong with me, I know there's something missing, and I'm sure it's because of who I was born to. I mean, something's missing in me. How come everybody else got all that and I didn't? As long as you despair of yourself and continue to feel like a nobody and a nothing, then your ego sits like this. Suspicious. We're good, but I got my eye on you. Now, but your ego, your fearful mind, will shift to viciousness whenever you will not tolerate self-abasement and you decide to seek relief from that belief in your littleness. Wow. Okay. So, here's what it's saying. Your fearful human mind, as long as, and I want to define, this is a great word, it says this. Your ego will remain suspicious as long as you despair of yourself, but your ego will shift to viciousness whenever you will not tolerate self-abasement and seek relief. Now, great definition of self-abasement that I looked up today. Perfect. Here's what self-abasement means. It means, let's see. There we go. Hold on a second. Whew. My ego does not want me to look that up. Don't look at that. Don't look at that, says my ego. Of course, now I can't find it. Now I can't get it. My fingers are too fat. Here we go. Self-abasement. Voluntary self-punishment or humiliation in order to atone for some real or imagined wrongdoing. Wow. Okay. So the minute that I seek relief from self-punishment, punishing myself for to atone for some imagined or real wrongdoing, the moment I say, I don't need to punish myself through relationships anymore. I don't need to punish myself through money anymore. I haven't done anything. The worst I've done has been mistaken. I don't need to punish myself through my body and health issues anymore. I'm innocent. All that happened was that I was mistaken. I don't need to punish myself anymore through relationships or money or my body. I'm going to seek relief from the ways I've been punishing myself. I've been punishing myself through relationships. I've been punishing myself through money. I've been punishing myself through my health. I've been punishing myself through my job. I don't need to do that anymore. I haven't done anything to deserve punishment. I'm innocent. I was just mistaken. Hey, listen, if I had learned better, then I would have made different choices. I'm innocent. I don't need to punish myself for not having known any better. I don't need to punish myself. I'm going to seek relief. I'm going to seek relief from what I've been doing to myself for no good reason. Now, the moment that I make that decision to seek relief from what I've been doing to myself, guess what? That's when the ego goes from suspicious to vicious. Wow. And then what that means when your ego goes vicious, then the ego offers you the illusion of attack as a solution. The ego's like, whoa, you don't need to seek relief from the ways you've been punishing yourself. I got a better solution. How about you attack? How about I attack? I'll give you attack. Wow, do you see what happens? In that moment, when you wake up for a second and realize, I'm innocent, I was just mistaken. I didn't learn that I was only love, and so I didn't give only love. It was just a mistake. I don't need to keep punishing myself anymore in the ways I have. In that moment, your ego goes, oh no you didn't, and then attacks. Wow. Because you just did what?
Seek relief.
You just sought relief from whom? It. It's just like this. We're talking about the ego being that mean, small bully. As soon as you go, you're small. You don't have any more power over me. I'm not going to attack myself anymore just because you said I suck. Then how does that bully respond? Does the bully go, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations, you realized that you don't have to take my punishment and my abuse anymore. No, the little bully ego goes, oh yeah? And goes for attack. Now, here's what happens. It's going to go on to say now what the ego will do. Now we need to know, this is very important, so that when the ego goes about its retaliation, we need to know what's going on so that we can not fall for it. Okay? So it says this. Now it says the ego doesn't know the difference between grandeur and grandiosity because the ego doesn't know the difference between miracle impulses and ego alien beliefs of its own. We once said that the ego is aware of threat, but that the ego doesn't make any distinctions between two entirely different kinds of threat to its existence. Our ego's own profound sense of vulnerability renders our ego incapable of judgment except in terms of attack. And so that means when our ego, when our fearful mind experiences threat, the ego's only decision is whether to attack now or to withdraw to attack later. If you accept your ego's offer of grandiosity, self-inflation, then your ego will attack immediately. But if you don't accept your ego's offer of self-inflation as the answer, then your ego will wait. It will wait. Okay. So the ego is the part of it's a belief that it is our belief in vulnerability. The ego is a belief in vulnerability. That's what it is. It's a belief that we took on, that we made up, that I'm vulnerable, I'm really vulnerable, I'm weak, man, I'm vulnerable, I'm weak, I'm real vulnerable. That's what the ego is. That's all it is. That's all it is. And so, because the ego is the belief in vulnerability, our vulnerability, the ego can only perceive in terms of threat. So it's the part of us that's always on the lookout.
Suspicious.
It's always on the lookout. The ego is the part of us that's always in fight or flight. What did you say? What did you mean? Why'd you do that? What does that mean? Oh God, lack, loss. Defend, I defend. What'd you mean? Why'd you say that? Why'd you do that? Oh God. That is our ego. And it is incapable of judgment or perception in terms of, is that a threat? What's a threat? That's a threat. What kind of threat is that? What kind of threat is that? What kind of threat is that? That's all it sees. Isn't that deep to think that there is a part of our belief system, there's something in our mind that only sees threat. That's all it sees. And wherever it looks. And it goes like this. Should I attack that threat right now or later? Should I attack now or later? Should I defend myself now or later? That's the only terms that part of us thinks in. Wow. So what do you think that does to you when you are siding with your ego mind? What do you think that does to you when you're in your ego mind?
Turns you into that. Makes you
It
be
turns
around.
you into a fight or flight freak who looks cool on the outside.
Or at least it does.
Exactly. Oh, I'm cool. I'm cool. Right. And everybody else is like, ooh, going for love.
Watch out, bud.
Ooh, stand clear of her. Wow. Now, if and when you are thinking with your ego and siding with your ego, that means that you are in fight or flight all the time. And do you know what being in fight or flight all the time does to your body?
Terrible.
Terrible.
Stress is a killer.
Stress is the ultimate killer. Stress is the #1 cause of death. All the energy in your brain goes to your primitive part of your brain. All the blood flow in your brain goes from the frontal cortex, which is logic, clear thinking. It goes straight to the primitive part of your brain, which is fight or flight. All the blood in your body goes from your organs where it needs to be feeding your immune system. It goes to the extremities in case you need to fight or flight. Fight or flee. And so all the blood flow, which should be feeding your immune system and all your other systems in your organs, has just gone out to your extremities. So now your immune system drops. That's why under times of stress, we tend to get sick faster and stay sick longer. Okay? So the ego, if nothing else, for our own health, we want to learn how not to think with the ego and how to not side with it and how to side with and think with something else that's in us also as another alternative called our higher mind, our right mind, spirit. Okay? Now, any questions before we go on to the next paragraph? All right. Does this seem practical?
I wondered what part guilt plays in. We feel guilt and then punish ourselves, or is feeling guilty part of the punishment? It seemed to me that any time you're not doing self-abasement, or
Yes.
feeling like you do deserve, then it's going to attack. And just how that all related to our guilty
Yeah,
feelings.
absolutely. Yeah, because the self-abasement is guilt. I should suffer in relationships because of all the mistakes I've made in the past. I should suffer financially because of all the past mistakes I've made financially. I should suffer physically because of all the past mistakes I made relative to my body and my health, the things I gave my body in the past. It's guilt. You deserve to suffer because of you know what you did. That's self-abasement. Now, here's the thing. Here's the good news. When you recognize that, when you have that awareness, okay, here I was for just a moment having the willingness to perceive that maybe I'm innocent. Maybe I deserve to be happy. Maybe I deserve only love. Because after all, I was only mistaken and I didn't do anything. I didn't change my reality. I didn't change reality. It was just a mistake. I'm still as God created me. If you've had one of those moments and then something really seemingly negative and scary happens right after, then if you can have the awareness to go, okay, my ego got scared. My ego felt threatened. My ego felt threatened. Of course my ego is going to go on the offensive right after. Okay, so this is a trick. This is my ego striking back. This is my ego's retaliation for daring to believe that I deserved to be free, to be happy, deserve love. It's just a trick. Now, as soon as you can bring that awareness on, which is true, guess what happens to the ego's attack?
It's diminished.
It's diminished. Its power. Why? Because you just told the truth. You just called the ego out. You just saw that it was just the ego it was the ego feeling offended and striking back, and you're taking all the power out of its retaliation. Woohoo! So you go like this. This is a trick. This is a trick. This is just my ego's retaliation. The ego has no power. The ego has no power. The ego has no power over the truth of my grandeur. The ego has no power to do anything. You know why?
It's not real.
Because it's not real. It's not of God. How do we know that the retaliation of the ego has no power, no matter how scary it seems? Because the ego is not of God. And because the ego and all the crap it does, the ego and all its crap, all its mean, cruel, nasty attacks also have no power. Because the ego has no power, because the ego didn't come from God. How could something that didn't come from God have more power than God?
Okay.
They can't.
Thank you. And the Course says that is how you dispel the effects of the ego. Very important. Oh, look at this. Here's an effect of the ego. I'm broke, I'm sick, I'm scared, I feel like crap, I feel like a nobody, I feel inadequate, I'm hurt, I'm brokenhearted. That's a retaliation. That's an ego effect. That's my ego trying to keep me down. That's my ego trying to convince me that I deserve to punish myself. That's what's going on. That's what Course teaches. And the minute that you say, I see ya, ego, I see ya, I know that didn't come from God, you didn't come from God, and your effects didn't come from God. Course says, poof! That's how it's done. Sounds like magic, huh? But it's true. It's real. As soon as you try it, you're like, whoa, wow. Okay, that's weird. That's spooky. When you say, when you're looking on one of the effects of the ego, and what is one of the effects of the ego? It's always retaliation against your innocence. That's all the ego's ever up to, by the way. That's why the ego hates you. Because you're of God and it's not. That's why a part of us hates us, by the way. When you see the ego or its effects and you say, all power is of God, what is not of God has no power to do anything, and this isn't of God, it's not real, poof. The ego's effects are dispelled. Wowee. Not bad, eh? This is a course in miracles. And you will be saying, that was a miracle. Oh, that was a miracle. Okay, whoa, a few minutes ago I was terrified by that thing. I was terrified by that, and I was terrified by that, and that seemed real, and I was terrified of that, and that seemed so real, I was having a panic attack. And now I have peace. Just because I said that one thing. Okay, that's a miracle. That's a miracle. That's how that goes. Now, I'm going to read one last piece, one last paragraph, and then we will complete for the evening. Now, it says, the ego, our fearful human mind, is immobilized in the presence of love's grandeur in you. Why? Because love's grandeur in you establishes your freedom from the little bully, from the little jailer bully. That's why your fearful mind is immobilized in the presence of the grandeur that exists within you. Ego's immobilized like this. That's why it's afraid of the grandeur in you. The grandeur just means power. And so, the ego is immobilized in the presence of your grandeur because even the faintest hint of your reality literally drives the ego from your mind. Wow. Just the faintest hint of the reality that exists in you and as you, just the faintest hint. Did I just say the faintest hint? The faintest hint literally drives the ego from your mind. Why? Because of complete lack of investment in the ego. What does that mean? That means the grandeur, the beauty, the power that's in you is totally without illusions. And because it's real, it is compellingly convincing. Yet the conviction of the reality within you will not remain with you unless you do not allow your fearful ego bully mind to attack it. Now, your ego fearful bully mind will make every effort, listen, it will make every effort to do what? It will make every effort to do what? To recover and mobilize its energies against your release. Like for instance, here's what it's going to do. It's going to tell you, you're insane. You're insane to think that kind of power or grandeur is in you. You're insane. That kind of power, that kind of worth in you, you're insane. You're delusional. And it will argue that grandeur can't be of you. Can't be a real part of you because of the littleness in which it believes. All right, so here's what's going to happen. Here's a little preview. So that you know what's going on. Again, you have a holy instant, as the Course calls it. Somehow, you have a moment where you have a faintest hint that there's something in you that is so powerful. That there's an innocence in you that cannot be sullied. And then what happens is that now if you do not, then you have to, once you have that hint, once you have that holy instant of the power and the reality that exists in you, unless you do what? Unless you don't allow your ego to attack that awareness, then your ego is going to do what? It's going to make every effort to recover and mobilize its energies against your release. Like for instance, what's it going to do? It's going to tell you, you're crazy. I know you were having that feeling that you could do anything. I know you were having that feeling that you are love and you don't need to get love anymore. And I know you were having that experience of your essential invulnerability as a spirit. I know that, but you're delusional. You're insane. You're hot. Are you crazy? Are you hot? Is what your ego will say as it's trying to recover and mobilize its energies against your release. Your release from what? From its bullying, from its self-debasement, from its abuse, from its downright abuse. The ego is like being in a relationship with an abusive spouse. It's just like that. You're no good. You know nobody would want you besides me. You know nobody would want you but me. You know how you are. You think somebody's going to love you more than me? Anybody ever experienced somebody like that? Or somebody who's in a relationship with somebody like that? When you're in a relationship with an abusive partner, they will have to make you believe, if you let them, that you are little, that you are inadequate, you do not deserve love, you cannot do better than them, and nobody will want you or love you more than them. And if you even entertain the idea that you deserve love, something better, it's going to tell you you're insane, you're delusional, you're crazy. You ever been in a relationship with somebody who you always felt crazy around? Am I crazy? Am I insane? Am I crazy? That's what the ego will do. Now, but remember what it said. It said the conviction of that reality, that grandeur, that beauty, that power that's in you, the conviction of it will not stay with you unless you don't allow your ego to attack it. Okay? So, crucial point. I want that awareness of my beauty, my power, my invulnerability, my creative freedom, my freedom. I want it to remain with me. I want to have that in my awareness every day. How do you do that? Well, when my ego tells me that I'm insane for feeling that I deserve that kind of love, when my ego tells me that I'm insane to believe that I deserve that kind of life where I'm free to love and free to be loved and free to create the gifts that are inside me, when my ego tells me I'm crazy and delusional, I need to learn how to go, no thanks, but no thanks. No thanks, but no thanks. See you later. Just like you might say to an abusive partner who's like, where are you going? You don't want to go out there. Stay home with me, where I can abuse you in the comfort of our own home. You say, no thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. That's the best way to refuse to allow your ego to attack your tiny, precious little hint of awareness that you are something more than what you thought you were. That you're something more than a little self with a little life, with only a little worth and only a little value that you have to protect with all your little weapons to make sure nobody gets your little lot. Because you see how your little lot but dwindles as you go ahead. When your ego tells you that you don't deserve it, when your ego tells you you don't, you have to learn how to not let your ego attack your awareness of the love and the power and the innocence and the grandeur in you. That's how you can allow that awareness to go from a hint, maybe, to whoa, the reality in me is real. That is real. And the fear is not. That, oh my God, reality is in me. And it's awesome, and it's not going anywhere. That awareness, that's how we allow that awareness to grow and grow and grow and grow to the point where it's not just a faint awareness, it's just not a hint anymore, it's what's real, and the ego is faint, a faint voice. You still hear it every once in a while, but now it's like a teeny tiny little mouse. You little. And then, but now the voice is so small that we're like, I hear ya. Oh, there you are again. All right, choo-choo. Where the ego voice used to be all there was. And the idea that we were powerful and worthy was small. We're now, this path takes us to the point where our awareness of our reality is large, and the voice of the ego is a tiny mouse in the corner, squeaking, that we now recognize as just, just a vestige of an old belief system that we used to use to punish ourselves with, but we don't anymore. And so every once in a while it squeaks and says, "You sound, I hate you. Punish yourself for nothing." And we go, "I hear ya. Oh, I'm calling for love. I'm calling for love. I'm calling for love." And then we go for love. That's what is coming. All right, so let's stop here for this evening. Now, as we're going to pass around the love offering basket, thank you for your financial expressions of appreciation. Thank you guys for watching on the internet. Thank you for your financial expressions of appreciation. Don't forget to check out my website, Kujawa.com, where you can learn about my holistic counseling practice and where you can set up a Miracle Psychotherapeutic Session with me, where we apply these ideas to whatever ways that your ego is trying to convince you that you deserve to punish yourself for some imagined crime, aka the problems we experience. Now, also, if your name is not on this list and you would like to know when I'm offering new classes or when there's a class cancellation, put your name on this list. So in the wintertime, if there's a snowstorm, I can let you know if there's no class. I'm starting 2 new classes. I'm starting a meditation class called Transcendental Miracle Meditation. And I'm also starting a Urantia class, which is another channeled body of work that I've been studying for almost as long as the course. And I'm starting these 2 new classes starting on Wednesday, August 10th, from 6 to 8:30, and it will be every other Wednesday. So, if you want to know more about those classes, let me have your info, and then I'll send you some info on that. But that's what's going on. Okay.
Will that be at 7?
I think I'm going to start it at 6 and go to 8:30 because it's going to be doing 2 classes with an intermission in between. So we'll do the Urantia class first, and then the meditation class second.
Is that here?
Here at the Rocky Mountain Miracle Center. Okay, now,
Next week?
I will be in Atlanta visiting family next Monday, but Jim will be hosting our class. Jim is a wonderful channel for the Spirit of Truth. Thank you, Jim. So there will be class. It'll be coming through Jim next week. All right. Real quickly, I just want you to speak out something that you heard tonight that you want to remember. Something you want to remember so that you can use it when the ego attacks. Something helpful you heard tonight.
Recognize the trick.
Recognize the trick. It's a trick. Oh, I'm having a really negative time right after a really good time. It's a trick. What else? What else did you hear that helpful, useful.
That you abandon your ego automatically when you see the grandeur in yourself.
I don't know. You
Which is why
abandon,
the attack starts really of your ego on yourself, right?
yes, that's right.
Like,
Wow. The awareness of the reality in you literally drives your fearful, angry, guilty, sick, broke ego out of your mind. Not bad, eh? Makes me want to like tune into my reality. Are you saying that I tune into my reality as created by love, and it literally drives out the thought system that keeps me broke, sick, lonely, unhappy, and angry? Okay, hey, okay, see, how do I tune into my own reality then? Anybody else?
When those feelings come up, you should always call on the higher mind.
Yes, nice. Call on the higher mind, absolutely. Do not let your ego attack those moments, those precious holy moments where you believed, and rightly so, that you deserve more and that you are more.
grandeur and
Yeah, the power, the love, the worth, the value, the creativity in you. Don't let your ego attack that. And we heard how to not allow the ego to attack it tonight. What else?
Maybe take some things out of those paragraphs and print them and put them
What?
where you see them, because you don't go back to your book, you forget, you go, oh, why am I, blah, blah, blah. And if
Yes.
you had them visible,
Yep.
where you go in the same room or the same, I don't know, and you could just go, okay, remember, and
Yes.
keep consciously remembering it, because I think it's easy to forget to walk
Yeah.
out and forget everything.
Yes.
that the ego works from suspicion to viciousness.
That's the ego's range.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're taking the abuse, the ego's like, good. That's nice. But I got my eye on you. That's good. That's what the ego's like when you're taking the abuse. It's abuse. And then when you're like, I'm going to seek relief from the abuse that I'm heaping on myself for what? Why? What'd I do? That's when the ego's like, now. And he goes like, ching, 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 ching. Oh, you thought you're my friend. And you realize your ego ain't your friend. The Course says, if you knew what your ego was up to, you would not listen to it. He says, we listen to the ego as if it is our friend because we do not know what it has out for us. And so when the ego goes, you know you don't deserve love. You should settle. You should compromise. You know you don't deserve real abundance, so you should settle and compromise. We go, you're right. Okay. I'll settle and compromise for this prison, for these limits, this unreal relationship, right? The ego is not, the Course says, the ego is not your friend. And if we knew what it was really up to, then when the ego spoke and said those kind of things to us, we would go, thank you, but no thank you, bye-bye. Right? So, the Course in Miracles is a genius gift in teaching us what the ego is, what it's about, what its purpose is, and how to choose a different and better voice. That's what the Course in Miracles is all about. The ego can't hurt you if you don't listen to it, if you don't obey it, just like an abusive spouse, just like that bully. If you don't listen to it, it cannot abuse you. It cannot have any power over you unless you abuse it. Unless you listen to it. Unless you abuse it. And remember, the essence of the ego is competitiveness. It's always seeking to outdo, but not to undo. Anything else before we close up?
I thought it was, it very much simplified our human experience. I mean, grandeur is the idea of, I have it all. But which means I have enough.
Yes.
No matter what comes up, whether I need a little or a lot, there is enough.
Yes.
That is our grandeur.
There, thank you. There, it goes on to say, your grandeur is your abundance. So your grandeur is, I have enough right now. I am enough right now. This is perfect right now. That's a faint hint of our grandeur.
And then we also have our idea of littleness. That's not enough, never enough. They're just
Thank
these two.
you.
The inner conflict
Yes, it's so beautiful.
within us is all that's ever happening, no
That's
matter
right.
what the form.
Exactly right. The voice of littleness is always like, there's something missing here. If you would change, I'd be happy. If this were different, I'd be happy. If there was something else going on, I'd be happy. Something's missing here. What is it? If you were different, I'd be happy. The littleness is always the belief that if something were different, you'd be happy. If they were different, you'd be happy. If you were different, you'd be happy. That is what the voice of littleness, the ego, always says.
It's always looking for something on the outside to change.
It's always looking for something that ain't here. So it says, love ain't here, and if it were, you'd be happy. All right. So now we know how to recognize that voice better. Right. And now we know how not to be fooled when the ego attacks because it was offended, when we dared for a moment to believe that we deserve happiness, freedom, abundance, health. All right, so now we're going to do our integration meditation. So for 2 or 3 minutes, all we're going to do is we're going to apply these ideas. So I want you to close your eyes, take a breath. First, I want you to just tune into how you feel right now, having heard these ideas. How do you feel right now? I want you to see if you can remember a time, even if it was only a few moments, where for a few moments you actually felt like you really did deserve love. I want you to see if you can tune into a moment, a few moments, where for a moment you actually believed that you deserved a loving, growing, safe relationship. And maybe remember a moment when, for just a few moments, you actually felt like it was possible to really love and be loved. A moment where you felt like it may be possible to experience a life that was fulfilling, creative, abundant, free. From just a moment when you believed that that might have been possible. Can you remember a holy instant like that sometime in your past? Now, I want you to remember that moment, and I want you to see if shortly thereafter you experienced what felt like an attack, either from within your own body, within your own mind, or it seemed to come to you from outside of you, from the world, or another. And take a breath. And I want you to just look upon that. And I want you to tell yourself the truth about that. Oh, my ego was afraid. My ego felt threatened. My ego felt offended that I dared for a moment to believe that I deserved something better than punishing myself through relationships, money, or the body. And then say, and that was my call for love. Now, what I want you to do now is I want you to take this holy instant now, and I want you to tune within and ask to experience the grandeur within you now. I ask to experience my invulnerability as a spirit created by love, invulnerably. I ask to have an experience of my own invulnerability as a spirit created by love. I ask to experience within me my reality as a spirit, unlimited in power, in joy, and in love. I ask to experience myself as love created me. Immortal, deathless, powerful, sinless, wholly loving, and wholly lovable forever. I ask to experience my grandeur, the reality within me, and then breathe. Ask to remember the power, the love, the limitless creativity, the worth, the value of yourself as created by love. Ask to remember. And breathe it in, breathe it in. You are exactly as the moment you were created by love. You were made as God created you. That is your reality. Don't let your ego attack it. Embrace it. say yes to it. Accept it. And then in conclusion, let us accept that on behalf of all the world that is one with us. On behalf of all the world that is one with us, we accept the reality and the grandeur that we were created in, that we were created as. And to that we say, amen. Amen. All right. Thank you for being here. Whew. And thank you for being here and helping everybody here to be healed by the truth. And thank you for being here and helping all the world to be healed by the truth.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. See you next time I see you.
Have a good trip.
Thank you.
And come back.
Say a prayer for me. Send me some love.
God bring her back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful to have you here. How'd you do?